And I remember when me and her were both underground in the sewer, no joke, she looks over at me and says, well, I mean, we're already down here and we're alone, so like, why not? Wait, what? And let's just say we did things that not even the Ninja Turtles would like. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also super embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually my grade 10 year. Now, in grade 10, I took a science class. If you guys don't know, it's mandatory for all students in high school to take science. And me, I never really mind science, but one thing I can say, if it gets to the point where it's dangerous, that's when I start not liking it. One thing I realized definitely for sure, though, growing up, is that I could never be a doctor as well. But besides that, I remember when I entered inside my science class, we were doing a unit where basically we were talking about global warming and seeing if the air was different between cities and also the jungle, I guess, or forest, as we have here in Canada. And our teacher ended up walking in front of the class and saying, okay, students, we're gonna be matching you guys up in pairs. Bubba, you're with this girl. And that's when he pointed out a girl in my class that not a lot of people liked because she was known for getting in people's minds really weirdly. What does that mean? Well, you guys will see later on in the story. But I remember I ended up basically pairing up with her, and me and this girl, we ended up having a project where we had to go into the forest and we had to go into the city and see the difference in air quality. I didn't mind this project, and I thought this was gonna be something quick and easy we could just finish off after school. So I remember when we ended up getting into our group, she ended up looking at me saying, oh, do you want to like just get this project done and just go today after school? Yeah, sure. Like, it shouldn't take more than an hour, right? No, it definitely shouldn't. We'll be 100% okay. But let's just say this project ended up giving us way more trouble than it should have been, because I remember right after school finally came around, and me and this girl, we ended up going towards the forest. But as we were on the way there walking, because at this time I didn't have my car, she looks over at me and says, I'm just curious, a lot of girls talk about you at school. Like, what's your problem? What do you mean what's my problem? Well, like, I don't know, like a lot of girls say that, like, you know, you're kind of a player. At that moment, I knew what she was talking about, because like I said earlier, in my grade 10 year, I was a player and I didn't know any better, and no one should do what I do. But I remember I ended up just basically kind of like ignoring her questions, because it got to the point where she started asking me questions that were way too personal. Like, no, you don't get to know if I have daddy issues, and no, my mom still loves me and still makes me dinner, even still to this day. But going on, I remember as we were in the forest, we end up finishing the part where we're supposed to, you know, finish up the testing of air quality, whatever that means. And this girl looks over at me and says, so like, are you really like that big? What do you mean? I'm only like 5'10". No, like, actually, like, you know what I mean? Like, are you like hung? At that moment, I felt really uncomfortable, because a girl asking that, especially in the forest, well, if it was any other girl, you guys would probably know what I would do, and I don't really need to say it. But at the same time, this girl I was not interested in, because once again, this girl had a really big mouth. So knowing this, I ended up basically ignoring her question, and we ended up just talking about the project like we were supposed to. But this is where things get kind of awkward, because I remember we ended up basically started heading towards the city, and from the city to the forest, it was like a 30-minute walk, not even. So as me and this girl were walking, we ended up stopping by and getting some McDonald's. Not the best choice in food, but at the same time, McDonald's, please sponsor me. I know you sponsored Kai Sinat, but I like eating food too, and also I could gain some weight. But honestly, after we finished eating, me and her, we ended up heading towards the city just to finish our project. And once we got there, I remember we ended up doing the project, we ended up finishing things up, and me and her were both exhausted. We were ready to go home and just get done with this stupid dumb project that no one liked. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care about global warming, nor do I feel like it's real, because like, what? We still have seasons, don't we? And this is where everything messes up. And before I tell you guys what messed up, real quick, I just want to say you guys should definitely follow my Twitch. I stream on there almost every day, and I'm probably streaming right now as you're watching this video, so go ahead and do that. But I remember as me and the girl were walking on the sidewalk of the city we were in, we ended up walking side by side, and this girl says something insane where she says, so like, do I have to like pay you to like me, or like, are you not gonna give me a taste? And at that moment, I ended up looking at her, not looking at the direction I was walking, and I ended up walking over some caution tape and falling into the sewer. I fell inside a sewer. Like, you guys know those sewer gates that's supposed to be covered up, but it's covered up with these like weird line things that don't really actually help out, because people still drop their phones, wallets, keys. You guys know the whole gist of it. Well, basically, for some reason, this caution tape was covering a hole that was leading to the sewer, and it wasn't covered. I don't know why. I guess they were doing some sort of construction there, but I ended up falling into it when this girl said the most craziest question. And when I fell in, I remember I hurt my legs so bad. Like, my ankles were burning from the landing I did because I ended up landing on my feet. It wasn't a crazy drop. I want to say it was like almost a 7-foot drop, which isn't that bad, but honestly, it definitely did hurt my leg. At that moment, I ended up looking up and I realized I was stuck in the sewer, and that's when I yelled out saying, yo, can you go get like a cop or something? Can you call for help? Yeah, no problem. I can call for help real quick. Can you throw up your phone? At that moment, I ended up looking for my phone, but at the same time, I didn't want to throw my phone up because I don't know if this girl's actually going to catch it, and I had the newest iPhone at the time, and I didn't want her to break it. So I remember I ended up just telling her, yo, just take out your phone. Why do you need mine? I don't know. Like, I don't really have service in the city. What? At that moment, I didn't understand what's wrong with this girl or what she was even talking about. I think this girl was actually somewhat dumb, but to be fair, she was blonde, so I don't really blame her. But it got to the point where this girl started calling out saying, yo, can anyone help us? Help, my friend's stuck down there. And then what she ends up doing next is she looks into the sewer, sees me, and she ends up jumping down with me. Why? I have no idea. But she ended up jumping, and I remember she ended up landing on her feet as well. And she looks over at me saying, oh my goodness, wow, that actually really hurt. What are you doing down here? Is the first thing I said to her, because there was no way this girl literally decides to jump into the sewer I got stuck in just to help me. But I don't understand the point of what this girl was trying to do. And it got to the point where me and her started arguing in the sewer. I started yelling at her because I'm like, yo, you're supposed to, you know, get someone to get us out of here. And that's when the girl said, okay, well, why don't you just whip out your phone and call someone? I remember I pulled out my phone, and since we were stuck in the sewer, for some reason, my phone didn't actually work. I don't know why, but for some reason, I couldn't call anybody, and I had no bars whatsoever. And to be fair, since I was doing the science project, I was on my phone a lot, totally, absolutely ignoring the fact that we were doing the science project and mostly texting other girls. But basically, I'm not gonna lie, my phone was basically dead. Okay, it basically was dead. It was useless. It was at like 3%, and I had no service. I couldn't do anything about it. Okay, so knowing that, I remember I ended up just telling this girl that my phone doesn't work, and me and her, we ended up staying down there yelling out of the little hole that we fell in. We kept yelling back to back to back, and for some reason, no one heard us except that one homeless guy that walked by and just looked inside and then just looked away and pretended he saw nothing, which that guy sucks, by the way. If you're ever watching my videos, I'm coming after you. Not actually, please. I'm not a crazy guy, but going on. I remember I got super upset, and we were in there for over half an hour. No joke, me and her, we ended up just sitting down on the sides of the sewer, and we're just like looking at each other. And once again, I ask her, why did you jump down with me? Like, you could have went and got someone to me. Well, I didn't want you to be here alone. We're in this together. We're in this together for the science project, not for you to be in the sewer with me, is what I yelled at her. And honestly, I was really mad because I really wanted to go home that day and play some Call of Duty Black Ops 2. But clearly, for some reason, this girl had different plans and decided to get stuck in the sewer with me. Anyways, I remember like another hour went by, and we were in there for like an hour and a half. And it got to the point where I stood up and said, okay, you know what? We're going to go for a walk. Where are we going to go? We can't get out. We're going to walk into the sewer. We're gonna go see if we can find a way out. What? But it's really dark in here. Yeah, but it's fine. Our eyes will adjust and we won't be in here for long. Maybe we can find a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't really know if that's a good idea, Bubba. No, we're gonna do it because I'd rather not do nothing than do something. So at that moment, me and this girl, we ended up getting up and we ended up walking down the sewer line. It got to the point where it was so dark that it was actually pitch black. It's kind of weird because I thought humans could adjust to like darkness and seeing in the dark, but clearly we actually can't, especially if it's underground. And one thing I definitely realize now is that I could never be a Ninja Turtle. Like, I don't know how the Ninja Turtles do it, but like living underground for a super long time with a rat they call Master Splinter, yeah, you're totally trolling, bro. I could never live down there. So knowing that, I remember it got to the point where we decided to walk back the direction we went, and we ended up seeing the sewer crate once again. But at that moment, when we walked back to the sewer hole that we fell in, we ended up hearing a bunch of police sirens, and that's when me and this girl started yelling and screaming back to back. And then we finally saw a cop look over and say, what are you two kids doing down there? We got stuck in the sewer. What? Okay, well, we didn't know people fell in here. We just saw the tape was falling down. We were called to fix it, but we have to call the fire department. You guys just stay down there. We'll be getting you guys soon. At that moment, me and this girl, we ended up waiting like 10 minutes. And for people that are supposed to come and save fires at a good time, they sure take a long time to get two people out of the sewer. So knowing this, me and this girl, we ended up just sitting there, and it got to the point where she looks at me and says, yo, so like, I don't know, I think we have like another half an hour down here. Do you want to do anything? No, not really. Why? Well, like, I don't know. Like, once again, I just want to know how big you are. At that moment, I'm not joking, I was so annoyed by her asking all these personal questions to the point where I just whipped out my eggplant. And yeah, not gonna lie, we ended up doing the devil's tango in the sewer. Totally disgusting, but to be fair, I've done it in more disgusting places, which if you guys want to figure out more disgusting places, subscribe to the channel. But yeah, honestly, it got to the point where like 20 to 30 minutes later, finally the fire department came and pulled us out of there, and we smelled disgusting. Like, we smelled so bad, bro. It was absolutely insane. And honestly, yeah, that was like basically it. We ended up getting out, and the next day at school, we ended up actually, funny enough, being on the news for being 2 kids stuck in the sewer, but the whole school knew about it, and yeah, I could not stop hearing the jokes about me and the girl in the sewer. But honestly, if you guys don't believe the story is real, then follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out. Okay, so I make a lot of stories about getting trapped into places, and I'm not gonna lie, it's never fun being trapped anywhere. But today's story is based on me getting trapped somewhere that I never expected to get trapped into. And no, this time it wasn't the girl's fault. Surprisingly, it was my teacher's fault. But before the story starts, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, means a lot when you guys do, and on top of that, not to mention, as you guys are watching this, I'm live on Kick streaming and also telling these stories live to you guys. So if you guys want to see my face as I tell these insane stories, go to kick.com/Bubba. Other than that, let's get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was actually in grade 7. Now, grade 7, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a player, and no, I did not do the Devil's Tango in grade 7, okay? I know a lot of people think I've been doing it since birth, but that is also very illegal. Going on from there, though, I remember in grade 7, my teacher one time went in front of the classroom and said, "Okay, class, so today we're gonna be going to around the lake." There's this lake that's near my place, and that was actually near my school, funny enough, that had this like really cool area that you can kayak in and stuff like that. And me, honestly, I liked going there with my family a lot, and knowing that I got to go there with my class was pretty cool. Now, I remember as basically we were getting handed out the field trip form, I was really excited to go, so I remember I went home and I told my parents about it, and they let me go. Now, obviously, the day of, I got excited. I got my, nice swim trunks on. I got my cool Minecraft t-shirt that I love to wear, and I ended up basically going. When I got to school, I remember we all went on the bus, and my goal was to sit beside my crush on the bus, but obviously that didn't end up happening because apparently every girl has to sit with another girl on the bus. Like, why can't I sit beside my crush for once? You know what? Never mind. That's not the point. Going on, though, I remember I ended up trying to kind of like go near my crush and sit beside her, but I ended up getting pulled beside a guy named Billy that, I'm not gonna lie, he smells like my socks on a Sunday morning. And I'm telling you right now, I wear socks in bed, so not the best smell. Anyways, going on from there though, I remember we ended up getting to the lake, and I started getting really excited, and we all ended up basically getting ready to start kayaking. Now, the thing about kayaking is that there's many ways to do it, but since we were like, a lot younger and in grade 7, we had to get grouped up with another person because there were 2 spots on the kayak. Now, I did not know who I was going to get grouped up with. Now, back when I was in grade 7, I wasn't the coolest kid, obviously. I was mostly that nerd that ended up playing video games all day, read comic books. I don't know, I still read comic books to this day, but that's not the point. Going on, not a lot of people wanted to be partnered with me. So I remember basically the way the teacher ended up partnering us up was in a more respectful manner, is the way she put it. So I remember she came up in front of us and said, "All right, class, so right now what we're going to do is everyone's going to stand in line, and I'm going to count you into your groups." I remember we all ended up going in line, basically getting ready to, be put into our groups. And I remember I was standing there, crossing my fingers, hoping that I would get someone that's at least somewhat normal to be my partner. Because if I get Billy, I swear I'm gonna end up shooting. Not the point. Going on, I remember I ended up sitting there and basically, fingers crossed, hoping and hoping. And then the teacher ended up saying my name. "Bubba, you will be with..." And then she ended up saying my crush's name. Now, when she said that, I'm not gonna lie to you, I got the most excited I've ever been throughout the entire school year. Me and this girl on a boat, it could be like Titanic, except without the sinking. Obviously, I don't want to sink. I wasn't a really good swimmer. So I remember I was really excited, and I basically ended up, running to my boat. But obviously my crush, well, she wasn't really that excited to be kayaking with me. Obviously, seeing her facial expressions, it made it seem like she didn't want to be my partner. So I promised myself that I would be the best kayaker there. What I ended up doing was I even set up the boat and everything for her. I ended up pushing with all my 120 pounds of me, pushing the boat all the way to the water. She didn't help out because she was on her phone, but at the same time, what girl isn't addicted to her phone? From there, I remember I ended up hopping in the boat. You can hop in now. Okay, whatever, is what she ended up saying. And she ended up hopping in as well. She was at the front and I was in the back. I mean, usually happens, but never mind. Going on, sorry. I remember me and her, we started kayaking. We were, rowing the whole thing, blah, 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 doing the basics of what we were supposed supposed to do. But then I remember she wasn't really trying and we had to keep up with the class. So I remember I used all my might and all my soul to basically row that thing like no tomorrow. I even played row, row, row your boat in my head just so I can make sure I'm doing it right, which sounds sad, but you guys get what I mean. So I remember as I was rowing, I ended up basically looking around as well, enjoying the view as I was sweating my arms off. Like no joke, like I felt like I was sweating more than a sinner at church. It was getting super annoying, but at the same time, I mean, my crush was getting to her destination, right? So in a way, I guess it was a win-win. From there, I remember as I was rowing though, I was looking around and I saw this island. Now I saw the island and I looked back away and I ended up kept rowing. But then my crush ended up saying, Bubba, we should go to that island. It looks so good. I can get an Instagram photo there, is what I said. Yeah, like, can we go to the island? Are you sure? The class is just up there. Bubba, go to the island. Okay, is what I said. So I ended up basically rowing towards the island and my teacher was questioning where we were going. But as she kept calling my name, I kind of ignored her because obviously if my crush wants to go to the island, I'm going to take her to the island. So I ended up rowing there and I remember right as I was rowing towards like the end of it, I ended up dropping my paddle and it ended up falling and I did not know where it was. So I remember my crush ended up giving me hers, so I ended up rowing all the way there. When I got there, I remember she got out the boat and so did I. And when we ended up basically leaving the boat and getting off it, she ended up getting off and so did I. And I basically ended up watch her take selfies of herself. And it even got to the point where she actually spoke to me and said, Bubba, can you take a photo of me? Yeah, sure, is what I said. I ended up taking a photo of her and she was as beautiful as always. Well, I mean, it was my crush. Obviously, she's beautiful. Going on though, I remember I ended up taking a photo of her and right as I take the photo, I see her face go from a smile to a shocked face. And I didn't know why until I turned around and I saw that the kayak that we got off of basically went away. Now, at this point, I remember I started panicking and my teacher honestly kind of like thought we were going to keep up, but I guess kind of looked away. So in a way, we were stuck on that island, which I mean, out of all things you could bring to an island, I guess bringing a hot chick, if that was an option, would be cool. But in this case, I don't think she wanted to be an option. I don't know. One thing led to another. We were stuck on there and we ended up basically sitting down and just waiting for our teachers to row back with the class. And I remember as we were sitting there, I decided to ask my crush a question. Hey, listen, if we get in trouble for this, I don't mind taking the blame. She looks at me and says, you would do that? Yeah, I mean, why not? Me trying to be the white knight in shining armor. She looks at me and kind of like looks at me as if I'm like stupid, which I mean, fair enough. It is a stupid thing to say, but still, you know, I'm just trying to be nice. She looks at me and she just says, okay, fair enough. And she ended up going back on her phone. Yeah, wow. So much for an emotional, touching moment. Like, I don't get it. In the movies, it always happens. Why not for me? Going on though, I remember from there, basically our teacher started rowing back and our teacher saw us, you know, sitting on the island and the whole class ended up going, ooh, they're on an island. Yeah, I wish there was a reason to ooh, because there wasn't, okay? So one thing led to another. We ended up basically having to wait another like 20 minutes on there just so they can get the kayak back to us, and we ended up rowing back. And when we rowed back, I remember when we got back to the mainland, our teacher ended up walking up to me saying, okay, so Bubba, I was told that it was your fault for what happened. Can you explain? Yeah, it was my fault. I wanted to go to the island and I just wanted to check it out. It was my bad. And from there, I ended up getting in trouble. My parents were called in and I got, you know, in trouble for 2 days of staying after school and doing math homework. I was literally trapped in my crush's locker. Okay, I know this sounds crazy and I know the title sounds unrealistic, but let's be real here. Half of the stories I tell on here are unrealistic, but God knows I lived through them and they are insane. So before I do get into this story though, I just want to quickly mention you guys, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, because seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, did I mention that I'm currently live on Twitch as we speak? I'm literally live right now. And on top of that, did I also mention that my Fortnite girlfriend and I are making in real life content on the Bubba channel? Yeah, I highly advise you guys go check that out, because seriously, that channel is going crazy. Basically, we're making these stories come to life. Literally to life. Anyways, without further ado though, let's get straight into this crazy, insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome back to another crazy story. So today's story takes place back when I was in actually middle school, funny enough. I know I've said a lot of high school stories this week, but I do want to tell one about middle school, because middle school was like core me. It was the helpless romantic Bubba. And it was like, well, a whole different era of, you know, internet time, let's just say. So I remember back when I was in middle school, I had one favorite book series that I loved to death, and it was called Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Now, in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, basically, long story short, it's about a guy named Greg Heffley trying to survive middle school, blah, blah, blah. I think we all know of it somewhat. It's one of the more relatable middle school stories ever. And I remember how in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, he had a middle school crush as well. And I remember basically one thing that me and Greg in the story really really bonded over was that middle school was crazy. And basically, I remember my middle school crush, I had a massive crush on. She was outstanding. She was amazing. And she basically saw me as a loser. Yes, she knew who I was in middle school, but she saw me more as a loser because, well, I'm not gonna lie. All I did was sit at home, play Black Ops 2, and, well, that's basically it. I wasn't known for the cool Justin Bieber haircut that everyone had. I wasn't known for being rich in any way, nor did I play hockey or lacrosse or any of those cool man sports. I was just a basic kid who played video games. Now, I know in this generation, every person plays video games. Like, it's considered cool to play video games nowadays, which blows my mind. Back when I was in middle school, it wasn't. Anyways, going on though, I remember one thing I really wanted to do was one time ask her out. And me asking a girl out, especially in my state and time, like, guys, I didn't look the greatest back in middle school. It was difficult. It was very difficult to even have the balls to walk up to her. So I remember what I ended up doing was basically planning a really romantic gesture. Sure, we'll call it that. A romantic gesture. Basically, I had an idea where it was plan ultimate ask girl out and not be creepy at all. Now, remember that plan because you guys will understand why I ended up being the total opposite of what it was supposed to be called, but it is what it is. Anyways, going on though, I remember I went up to my crush's friend and I said, hey, like, I really want to ask your friend out. I just don't know what to do. Can you please like help me and like give me opinions? She ends up looking at me. She's like, yeah, sure. Just like go up to her and like just ask her out. Don't be weird. Yeah, that wasn't happening. You think I have the balls to go do that? Are you serious right now? Yeah, no, not gonna happen. So I remember what I ended up doing was I ended up basically planning this theme where I was gonna go to her locker because our lockers were right beside each other. Funny enough, I actually made sure our lockers were right beside each other in the beginning of the school year. And basically how that went was I was literally beside her, kind of walking with her as she was choosing a locker. And right as she chose a locker, I basically slammed my lock on the one right beside it. Cringy, I know, but I mean, when you're desperate, you gotta do what you gotta do. Reminder, I was in middle school, okay? Desperate times were, well, basically anything that had to do with my feelings. So going on though, I remember basically my locker was right beside hers, and I remember I walked up to her, and basically every time I would walk up to her, I go straight to my locker to kind of avoid being awkward. And I basically was watching her put her locker combination right beside me, and I saw basically her locker combination. I wrote it down on my hand with my Sharpie that I had in my backpack, and now I had full access to my crush's locker. Now you guys are probably wondering, what the heck are you doing with that? Well, I can explain to a certain extent. You see, I remember that day I ended up going to 7-Eleven. If you guys don't know, that's like a basic convenience store. And basically I ended up picking up a bunch of candy. I got a bunch of candy from O. Henry bars to Kit Kats to Hershey's white chocolate. Like, I got it all. And I remember I put it in a little goodie bag and basically got a rose. And basically my plan was to put it in her locker. Now, this is where things get really difficult. I remember the next day of school, it was lunchtime. And during lunch, I remember I went into her locker and I started putting the combination down. But right as I opened her locker fully, I see her walking down the hallway with her group of friends on the way back to her locker. I was panicking. I was freaking out. I'm like, oh no, she's literally gonna see me with her locker open. I'm gonna get exposed. So what was my initial plan? Well, originally some people would think it was just to be locking it again and pretend it never happened. But nope, not for me. I ended up actually going into her locker, shoving myself in there, and literally closing the locker. Now, you guys are probably wondering, how the hell did you put the lock on? Well, luckily enough, my friend was right beside me at the time, helping me with this special mission, and he locked the locker on me. Yeah, I didn't expect him to do that, but he ended up doing that. He literally locked the locker when I was inside of it. Are you serious right now? That was my first thought. And I remember I was panicking. I'm like, dude, I'm literally stuck in my crush's locker. It smells nice in here, but I'm gonna die. Yeah, I had no idea what to do at that moment. I was panicking. I was freaking out. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I was losing oxygen. I'm not gonna lie. I think I was going psychotic in there. But basically, I remember my crush was walking through, and I remember I was looking through the locker slits to see where she was. And basically, funny enough, she didn't even enter the locker. She went into a different classroom. She didn't even go inside her locker. And I was like, what? Are you serious? She didn't even go inside the locker? What? I was so confused. And then I remember when I was looking around her locker, there was nothing there. There was literally nothing. There was no backpack. There was no jacket. There was not even textbook. So that came to my mind, and I'm like, oh wait, she definitely, and I mean definitely, was getting ready to go home early. Because one thing I forgot was that she had a doctor's appointment. Man, I don't know what I was thinking. I was so dumb back in that day. So what I did was I got my phone out, and my phone was almost dead. I think it was because I was watching Jacksepticeye throughout the entire school year, sitting on my phone for like 20 minutes watching Jacksepticeye. And knowing me, back when I had a phone, it was a really garbage phone. It had like this battery drain issue. I don't know. So what I did was I was sitting in there panicking, freaking out, same old, and my phone died. So I had no phone, the locker was empty, and basically the school day was gonna end. I ended up missing 2 of my classes, and my teacher thought I was missing for some reason. I don't know. Technically I was, but going on. I remember what ended up happening happening was that I was sitting in there waiting, being patient and hoping something would happen. And something did happen. Her friend ended up coming out of the classroom and going to her locker, and she basically unlocked her locker because I guess girls just share locker combinations just like that. I don't know. And when she opened the locker, I came out of it gasping for air going, oh my God. And I remember her scream of her yelling and freaking out was insane. She was literally like, oh my goodness, like, what are you doing in there? Like, Bubba, are you serious? What was that, a prank? Yeah, I was sweating like Godzilla. Like, I was crying, dude. I did not want to be in there anymore. And I remember I told her, I was, and when she looked at what was inside the like, goodie bag I had, she saw melted chocolate and a dead rose. Yeah, who knew? Roses needed oxygen like humans. And, yeah, that's basically it for today's story. Honestly, my opinion, don't ever go into your crush's locker. And before you guys say anything, what happened to my crush? Well, she never ended up finding out. I luckily paid her $5 of my lunch money to keep her friend quiet. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. So make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And on top of that, did I mention that I am currently live on Twitch? Once again, go check it out. Links in the description down below. And like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. All right, peace out, guys. Also follow my Instagram.
Let's go. Should I make it a story? Let's click record. Got that TikTok with 2 mil hit different with some more. She said she love me, she got. Should I ask it for sure? I got 100K for my life's work, so mama said bravo. All these people on my swing, love y'all.